I think we can start, Professor, if you're ready.
Uh, yeah, sure. Okay, let me quickly share my screen.
Okay. In the
And
meanwhile, I'll just give a brief introduction to
sure.
Professor Antony. Yeah, very good morning, students. Good morning, Professor Antony Kallanchira. Professor Antony Kallanchira is a software engineer. He is a RPA expert, mentor, entrepreneur, and also a project manager. And he is a UI path solution architect and also a change agent. I think he's a right person today for us to give more information about robotic process automation. So, very good morning, sir. We welcome you on behalf of MBA Bangalore University of the Anand Sagar institutions. So, I'll hand over the mic to you, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the welcome. So before I begin, I would like to thank you all for your interest in RPA, and for the great introduction as well. Right, and I hope you guys are all keeping safe during this COVID situation, right? And another thing that I would like to mention before we begin is that since we are all working from home, since we are using our local internet connection, right? If at all I get kicked out or my internet is down, give me 2 or 3 minutes to switch to another account, another network option, and I'll come back to you. Fine. Now that being said, uh, I would like to start with something that we discussed during the introduction itself. Uh, about my different roles, as you heard, right? I mean, I've been doing different roles in the IT industry, and one among that is change agent, right? And that's a very important role that is being played by a lot of people nowadays, where the focus is on smooth landing, or when a organization goes through a particular change, we need to facilitate or incorporate that change in such a way that it doesn't harm anyone, or the effect is as desired, uh, right? So the reason I bring this up is because of this COVID situation, right? Companies or businesses are changing rapidly, right? Uh, so rapidly that a lot of conventional methods are changing. People are trying to improvise. They have to improvise to survive, right? To thrive. And because of that, several new technologies have come up, right? One among that technology is RPA, which facilitates uh, making the processes in a company lean or more efficient, right? So we'll be discussing about that technology today, RPA. And let me quickly share my screen. Let me know when you can see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, very important thing. Please keep this as lively as possible. Feel free to interrupt me whenever you want. You can ask me as many questions as you want about RPA. I'll try my best to answer as much as possible. If I don't know, I'll definitely get back to you. Right. So be as interactive as possible. Right. Now, before we begin with RPA, you might be wondering, you guys are MBA students, and what I mean, how exactly is the technology, really important for me, right? I mean, these are more for technical people, right? Um, the thing is, as I said previously, right? Since the companies are changing, the business is changing, right? I mean, and since RPA is going to play a pivotal role in facilitating this change, you guys being the future of businesses, right? I mean, I think it is imperative that you should know more about RPA, right? And another benefit of this session is that I've tried to include everything that I've learned over the past few years through several research, through a lot of failures, through a lot of mistakes, things that you learn through experience, right? These things are of value because a lot of companies are still trying to learn about RPA. They are very skeptical of using RPA. They are still waiting to see other people make mistakes so that they can learn from it. So a lot of people does not know about RPA, right? When you enter the industry with this information, with whatever you get through the session, it will definitely help you, right? So this is how you will benefit from the session. See, RPA is a fairly new technology, and when I say new, I would say RPA has been around for quite some time. In fact, it started somewhere around early 2000s, somewhere around 2003. Blue Prism started, and followed by UiPath and Automation Anywhere. And it is still new, right? So you might be wondering, I mean, it's been around since 2003. It is still new. How does that make sense, right? Um, it's because people are very slowly getting used to it. They're very slowly understanding what is RPA. And till now, the desperate need for RPA was not there, but now it is there. So it is still a new technology, and it will remain new for maybe a few more years as well. So it's a fairly new technology. Companies are still trying to figure out the best way to approach RPA, right? Because the way you approach RPA and any other technology is completely different, right? RPA is going to be used to discuss in all industries. And believe me when I say this, when you guys go into the company, right, when you start working, you will definitely, cross your paths with RPA at least one point in your career. That's for sure, right? So when you enter the market with enough knowledge to approach RPA, it will definitely give you an edge. So that is how you'll benefit from this session, right? Now, before we talk about RPA, robotic process automation, I would like to show you what is a process. And guys, let me know if if you can hear this video. Okay, how do I play this thing? Mouth is not showing. 1 second. Is the audio? I mean, can you guys hear the audio?
No, sir.
You can't. Okay, that's interesting. I've actually shared the this one. Let's see if I can cast the stove. That's all. Okay, no issues. Let's do one thing. This video, it's a black and white video of Charlie Chaplin, and this is showing a process, and it just has background music. So let us play this video for the time being. I just asked to increase the speed. All right. So, apologies for the audio part. I mean, there's this background music. But as you saw, right, I mean, this I would say is an example or a classic example for a process that happens in an organization, right? One way or the other, it's all related, right? So, can you guys tell me what is the problem with with this process? Uh, Anyone? I mean, see, you can see it's a manual process, so it's like keeping on doing the same thing. So, what do you think is the ill effects or the negatives of this process?
Sometimes can be skipped or can be missed out by the people. Manpower.
That's that's true. That's true. In fact, if you notice, I mean, when the honeybee came up, right, they actually missed one set of nuts. That's true. Anything else? I believe a comment was made. Time consuming. Yes, I do agree. Uh, yeah, I mean, if you want, you can type in comment as well, or you can speak out as well. It is time consuming. I agree. Totally agree with that. Anything else? One activity is dependent on the other. Yes, that's true. I mean, of course. I mean, if only one person does it correctly, only then the other person also, I mean, can do it correctly, right? Even if the second person wants to do it correctly, also if the first person messes up, it will not work. That's true. Correct. So consistency is an issue. Exactly, more human resources required. Uh, Lack of coordination. So when you talk about more human resource required, right? It's true because human beings cannot work 24/7, right? As you saw, Charlie Chaplin, he went for a bathroom break, right? At that time, another person had to come in, right? So that's true. And the lack of coordination, absolutely, that is a big issue because uh, one person will be like arguing about the tightness, or another person will be talking about speed, and it's all random. It's not really efficient. What else? You know what? I think we have quite a few, really good, problems of this process. And please do, send out more problems if you feel like, and we can discuss about this. See, one issue, as you said, I mean, it's time consuming. Right? If you imagine we have a robot to do this particular, task, right? The amount of tightness of that nut will always be accurate. It will always be consistent, right? There will not be any politics or, as you see, actual fighting between employees. Just robots. They don't complain. They just keep working, and they don't take bathroom breaks. That is there, right? And again, imagine as a human being. I mean, you guys, just tell me, would you like to work in such an environment for 20, 30 years, right? Same thing, tightening a nut, right? And the worst thing about that is, end of the day when you retire, right? And when you look back at your career, you can proudly say, "Yeah, I've tightened quite a few nuts." That's it. You've tightened quite a few nuts all your life. That is simply it, right? So, see what is different from us human beings and animals. Animals cannot think. We can think. We are intelligent people, right? So, if as you said, a lot of human resources required, right? If a lot of people are working on repetitive, mundane, boring tasks all their life without even having a time to think, their intelligence or their actual capability is not being utilized, right? Imagine Mr. Bean, sorry, Charlie Chaplin, right? I mean, he has a robot over there. The robot is doing it, and he can actually think on how can this process be involved, improved, or what can I do for the business? More things. He can come up with innovative ideas, right? Simple example: if Einstein was supposed to tighten nuts all his life, we would be set back by a lot of years, right? So that's another big issue of this process, right? So this is basically here I'm talking about a actual robot, a physical robot, but in RPA we don't have a physical robot. By the way, in fact, one of my customers, right? I mean, I was explaining about RPA for a very long time. We spoke in detail about RPA, and at the end of the session, the customer asked me, "Okay, so how does a robot look like? Is it big?" And I was shocked because I actually did not think about people assuming that robots will be physical. No, in RPA, the robot is just a software. It's a Windows service, and it it's not visible. We cannot touch or feel it, right? So now, what is RPA? Right? Let us look into that. See, RPA is basically a technology that uses robot to automate rule-based, high-volume, repetitive tasks previously committed by human beings. So let me break down that for you guys. Okay, um, we have a Windows service or a software. Okay, that we train or we teach to perform tasks that were done, manual tasks that were done by human beings. However, we have all learned, right? I mean, just like computers, even robots, so they are not intelligent, right? So they cannot make decisions like, which is a more beautiful flower, or who's a more beautiful lady or a handsome guy, right? Those kind of things a robot cannot do, right? However, if it is rule based, right? If this happens, do that. If that happens, do this. If X equal to B, then B equal to C, and then X equal to C. If it is rule based, the robot can do it, right? And then it should be high volume and repetitive, right? It should keep on happening every day, and there's a lot to do. Then definitely that should be automated, right? So that is RPA basically, right? And even though this picture does not do justice to RPA, for time being, let us say that RPA is being used predominantly in these domains where customer service, accounting, financial services, healthcare, human resource, supply chain management. But ladies and gentlemen, this is not it. I mean, RPA is used in every domain. It can be used in any domain. Okay, but these are like the ones that significantly uses RPA. And it enables employees to focus on high-value work while autonomous multi-skilled software robots can, keep on working, right? And again, no errors, as previously pointed by our friend. Human beings, we make mistakes. We are prone to mistakes, right? The problem of making a mistake in a process, right? One, we have to redo the process, the entire process. That means the time we took to do the process in the first place, the work in the first place, is a waste, right? So let us say it takes 1 hour, and let's assume the hourly rate for an employee is let us say $20 or $30. So that is wasted, right? And if you think rework is the only issue, again there are more issues. We have to find where exactly the mistake was made. So there's a bit of analysis also done. So that again time is wasted, right? And even worse, we once had a customer who have been using a wrong, a formula for the past 10 years, right? And when the robot started working, it found out this in the first day itself, right? So imagine the amount of mistakes that can happen, and eventually that can affect the business itself. So that is where RPA comes in, right? And the benefits of RPA. Right. It's basically the opposite of what you guys said as the ill effects of the manual process that we just saw. Right. So one is accuracy. right? It eliminates human-induced errors and mistakes, so it's always accurate, right? And consistency, right? Just think about a nut tightening scenario, right? I mean, humans will be tightening the nut maybe very tight once, not too tight another time, or maybe medium another time. So we are not consistent, right? But robots are always consistent. It's always the same end result or the output, right? Compliance. Well, human beings, we tend to, maybe be a little non-compliant. For example, let us say you have to log your time daily. Okay, that is a rule. But we might not follow. We'll just say, okay, you know what? I'll do it tomorrow. We'll keep it for tomorrow and we'll do it, right? But robots are always consistent. They always follow the rules, right? Whatever you teach them to do, they will do it exactly, and they will always be compliant. Then value-driven work, it enables your valuable human resource to focus on productive, value-driven work. I feel is this one and the people focus, right? Both are almost interrelated. Is the most important part of RPA, right? Of course, with RPA, you can save a lot of time. You can, do all the manual process all fast. But the side effect, or the good effect actually of this, is that people who have been working this repetitive tasks, right, they are free. They can innovate. They can do a lot of new stuff. They can come up with good ideas, right, and that will help the business, right? Flexible and scalable. Again, it's more like, you can increase the number of robots, just by just purchase a license, and you can increase robots. And scalable, no matter how many uh, you know how much volume is there, or how many geographical areas this automation should be done, it can all be done, right? For example, a human being, if he has to work on a process, we should be in India, or maybe we should go to another place to work on another process. But robots, again, it can be in a centralized environment, in a server, and can keep working in different areas. So that is there. People focus with more emphasis on value-driven work, right? It's similar to value-driven work. I mean, people are the welfare, or the benefits of people is actually in mind of RPA, right? And now this opens a can of worms. I agree, because people might be wondering, when you say people are freed of manual work, does that mean they lose their job? No, it is not like that. People ask the same question when computer came in, right? Now, when computer was invented, right, they said, "Oh, a lot of people will lose their job. This is not good." But that is not the case. We just use the computer, or we just use RPA in such a way that our work is more efficient. Simple, right? So basically, uh, it's just a tool that helps us work. It is not something that's going to take away your job, unless your job is repetitive, mundane, and it has no intellectual value at all. In that case, we have to evolve. We have to upskill ourselves. We have to learn and be, industry worthy. Right? That is again another catch. Um, and last but not the least, it's a non-intrusive technology. This is another reason why I say that RPA is going to stay, or RPA will be used significantly in other companies. And I'm sure you guys also will have to discuss about this in the future when you make decisions on what tool to use to make a process lean. Let me explain. There are other technologies, right? I mean, Python, AI, ML, or okay, AML is fine, but then Python or any other programming languages we use to create softwares, right? The problem with that is, let us say there's a company, okay, they have been using a particular software for 10 years, okay, or 20 years. It's a legacy software, old software, right? The reason they are using it is because they are very dependent on the software. Now, to change it is going to be very costly, right? Or even if you make a small change, it can cause more bugs or issues, and it can break the system. Or if to make a new software, it's going to be very costly, right? So people just keep it there still, just like having an old car, right? Buying a new car is going to be difficult. Okay, making modification on the car also, you might not feel comfortable, right? Same with softwares. But with RPA, the good thing is, we don't make any change to the software. Okay, we don't create a new software. RPA is just like hiring a person. Uh, Guys, this is a easy way of understanding RPA. It's just like hiring a person who will work on softwares. It's not going to change any software. Just like me and you. I mean, when we work on Word or PDF or email, right, or Outlooks or anything, right, we actually just use it. That's it. We don't make any changes to it, right? So nothing goes wrong. It doesn't get affected, and the work gets done as well. So that is where no, that's why we say RPA is non-intrusive. Before I proceed, any questions? Anyone? If you want, you can put in the chat as well. Let me open up the chat. Looks like no questions as of now. However, if you have any questions, please keep a note of that, and we can discuss that uh, probably towards the end. Fine. Now, again, this one is another video which I want to share, but since we don't have this, let me try to cast it. Okay. Can you tell me if you can, see this video? Let me try to cast it. Can you hear it?
No, sir.
I'm sorry.
No, sir. It's coming from your mic only.
Only from mic. Okay. I mean, at least is it a little bit audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So we'll play this video, and I'll do one more thing. After this session, probably I'll share this video as well, or I'll share the presentation itself to you guys. Right. We'll try to hear as much as possible.
So it's audible at all, sir.
Sorry?
So
Yes.
it's not audible.
Oh, it's not at all audible.
We are not able to listen anything, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, thank you for letting me know. No issues. Let me explain what he was saying. Okay. He was talking about a sample use case for RPA. Okay. Let me close this and let me open up. Fine. See, what he was saying was, a simple example of an employee onboarding, okay, in HR, right? Where a new employee comes in. What usually happens? We have to enter his details, and probably we'll have to share it with the IT department. We might have to share it with the project managers. Then maybe with keep a record of the HR department itself, then for the finance department, and then maybe we have to assign the salaries and everything, assign the project group. So there are several set of actions that is done when an employee comes in, right? And this is consistent for almost every employee, right? It's just that the areas where they're designated to will be different. That's it, right? But that is role based. So this is a classic example for an RPA in action where imagine an HR is actually daily keeping on doing the same thing again and again and again, right? Instead, now all they have to do is just you saw the folder they are putting it, right? I mean, you just move a file into the folder. That's it, and everything else will be done by the RPA. Right? Even that need not be done. It can be automated, right? There are different ways of automating. So uh, when that is done, this HR has a lot of free time, right? Then that person can focus on building employee relationships, or discussing with the employee on how they want to bring their career forward, stuff like that, instead of this again repetitive task. So that is this thing about RPA. And the speaker over here, Alex, I mean, he and I, we used to have conversations on this, and I used to make fun of this process by comparing it to a calculator, right? And eventually, we both agreed to this. I mean, it is just like a calculator. We have a calculator. We open it up. We perform calculations. Close it. That's it, right? Similarly, whenever there's a process to execute, let's say a repetitive process, right? Just open up let me show you that part. I mean, you don't need the audio for that, right? He'll just place a file over here, and as you can see over here, right? This is a drop down where there are multiple processes that's already defined for the robot, right? So he can choose whichever process that needs to be run, and once you execute that, then everything will happen automatically, right? So that is the benefit of RPA, right? And currently, what we are all focusing on is bot per device, right? There are two types of automation. Okay, I mean there are three, but let us focus on two. I mean, I'll talk about third also. One is attendant robots. Okay, attendant robot means it's something that they need a person to work with. The process that you just saw, right? We have to choose a process and maybe drag and drop something, or give some input, and then the process will automatically work, right? So that is an attended process, right? Then we have unattended process where human beings are not at all required, right? We just put this process in a server and it will keep running again and again. We can just forget about it, right? And it will keep running all through the year, right? That is unattended robots, right? And then we have hybrid, where hybrid is because there are two types of processes in an organization, right? Automatable process, non-automatable process, right? Automatable process, fine, we can automate it. Let's forget about it. Right? Non-automatable processes, right? It is non-automatable because human intelligence is required somewhere, right? So let us say there are like 4 or 5 steps in a non-automatable process, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? This process will become non-automatable because let us say 3 or 5, the steps 3 and 5 are requiring human intelligence. Right? Remaining are role-based, it can be automated. So if you break down that process and use an attended robot, right? and or maybe an unattended robot for the process that does not require human beings, and then only for the part where human beings are required, you can use an attended robot. Then continue, right? Like that, you can have a hybrid model as well. That way, we are automating as much as possible, right? So these are the different types of robots that we have as well. And the current keywords or technologies in the RPA industry, one is bot per device. That means every single person should have a robot of their own, just like having a calculator of our own, right? I mean, so that whenever they have a process, just automate it and just execute. That's it. So they don't have to worry about the process again and again, right? And second one is hyper automation, meaning we automate as much as possible, right? That way, a company that that executes all its processes, right? I mean, if you take that amount of time, it will be reduced by at least 70% easily. So that is a huge profit for the company, right? So how is the current market viewing RPA? Okay, see, before I jump into this, okay, any questions till now? The reason I ask is, sometimes I might be throwing in a technical term unknowingly, and you might, not be aware of it. So feel free to ask any questions. Anything? Okay. All right. So let's continue. And if you have any questions, please do put in the chat, and we can discuss about these questions towards the end. Fine. See, as we discussed earlier, right? I mean, companies are only starting to automate because RPA is new, right? I mean, as I said, it has been new for a long time. Still, it is new, right? And companies are skeptical about using a robot instead of a human workforce, right? Reason is because, see, human beings, we can tell them to do something, and we assume that they will take the responsibility and they'll do it logically and intelligently, right? We are afraid to let a robot do the same. But actually, the fear doesn't make sense because robot is more compliant than a human being, right? And another big issue, companies are skeptical about the reception of robotic workforce by employees, right? See, there are different types of employees, right? Mainly, I would classify as two: people who are, really wanting to improve their career, who really want to contribute to the company, who brings a lot to the plate on the table, right? And other type of people who just want to get by. I mean, just want a easy life and just go to company, do a little bit of this and that, etc., and come back, right? So, see, the second type of people, they will be affected. That is for sure, because RPA is going to be, the technology that is going to replace work done by such people, right? Repetitive tasks. We don't have to think too much. You just keep doing the same thing again and again and again, right? Such tasks will be automated. Okay, I mean, and some people, of course, will lose a job. Can't help it. But most people who actually do the work, they will find RPA really useful, right? But that being said, how politics work in the company, right? So people will spread rumors about RP. Okay, so we're going to get some robots. People are going to start losing job. There'll be a lot of frustration, tension, and companies are skeptical about this change. They really don't want to dive in without observing other companies who are doing this. So everyone is doing that. So people are really skeptical. Then another thing is there are a lot of RPA tools that are emerging, right? And there's a race actually to prove better ROI, right? For example, see, I'm a UiPath expert, and I've been working closely with UiPath. My company is a UiPath partner, right? We have been working closely with UiPath for quite some time, and recently we began thinking, why only UiPath? We are supposed to be called as RPA experts and not UiPath experts, right? So I began talking with a few other vendors like Cryon, Electronic, Automation Anywhere, different people, right? Now, more than ever, even I'm confused on which to choose, right? Because every tool is getting better, one better than the other, and every tool is expensive. It's very difficult to find a cheap RPA tool now. I mean, it was easy last year, I would say, but now again, it's becoming more costly. For example, UiPath. We need some basic licenses for UiPath that will cost you somewhere around $40,000 per year. Every year you have to give 40,000, right? So I thought, okay, fine. You know what? I'll contact Cryon. Maybe they are not as famous as UiPath, so maybe they'll be cheaper, right? For them, it's $79,000. Right. So I'm still trying. I mean, tomorrow I have a call with Electronic. That's another vendor. So I heard they are a bit more cheaper. So see, there are so many vendors coming up. So again, companies are wondering, okay, which one do I choose? That's another risk factor, or other. The reason I say risk is because these licenses are not cheap, right? They are costly, and this is an engagement that they're looking for a long term, so they don't want to mess up, right? So people are being very very cautious, and that is where knowledge and RP is going to help, right? So basically, there are two types of companies that emerged during this evolution of RPA. Okay, one is people who use RPA for themselves, right? Big companies who have their own IT team and people who are not technical, they will be automating their process themselves, right? And then there are other companies like my company, where we help other companies automate. Right? We have a lot of customers, huge customers. We, have discussions with them. We enable them to automate processes in their company, right? So these are the two types of companies. Moving forward, it's stuck. Okay. Companies that use RPA for themselves, the big companies that I mentioned, right? Challenges, right? What are the challenges they're facing, right? One is identifying the right tool to automate, which I mentioned previously. Second thing, identifying the process that needs to be automated. Wow, that is a big challenge, because even though they know there's a lot of processes that is manual, narrowing in on them and identifying the specific processes that needs to be automated is a bit of a challenge. Then another thing is educating the workforce on the benefits of RPA, right? Because as I said, people will be worried about RPA coming in, so we need to educate them on its benefit, right? And another thing is justifying the return of investment, the ROI, right? As I said, the license itself is going to cost 70, 80K per annum, depending on the vendor that you're choosing, right? And then there will be expense for developing or configuring the robots. That's again going to cost you somewhere around 20, 30K. So roughly around 100K, $100,000 per year is going to be spent on RPA, right? So they need an ROI. I mean, the processes should be should become lean enough to give them an ROI, right? So that is also a challenge, right? So guys, I mean, anyone can you guys tell me, I mean, how would you choose a tool, right? Forget RPA tool, okay? Any tool, okay? If you want to buy, what are the the features, or what are the things that you will look at it? Look at the tool.
Durability, quality,
Absolutely, durability, yes. Quality, absolutely. Or what is
Usage of tool.
usage? Yeah, ease of use, right? Yes,
And price.
absolutely. Very important. Most important, I would say, price.
comfort,
Comfort. I mean, how comfortable are the people with the tool? That's very important. I think we have covered. I mean, quite almost everything. One more thing is there support, right? I mean, there should be a warranty or support or something, right? I mean, if something happens, they should replace it within a reasonable amount of time, or they should be able to give a customer service support features, right? So let's look at that, right? Identifying the right tool, right? You guys said, right, cheap, costly things. Again, I mean, we discussed that. stability, support we discussed, right? Ease of learning, the comfort part you mentioned, right? And again, can a non-technical person automate a process? That's another part, right? So when when you have to choose the right tool, what I suggest as an RPA consultant or as an RPA expert is, you should not have a generic perspective where you choose one tool, let's say UiPath, and UiPath for all the customers. No. Instead, if you look at the customer's need, their size, the processes that they have, and every particular factor of a customer, right? And then decide which tool is good for them, right? And if you have that knowledge on RPA, more than enough, because that is the game changer in the industry moving forward. Knowing which tool to use for what scenario, right? Cheap versus costly. For example, if you just want to do a POC and see how it works, right? Go for a cheap tool, right? Maybe use a community version, big deal, right? Sometimes costly tools will have a lot of features, a lot of support, right? At that time, if you're maybe in a banking domain or something, you really need perfection, right? Go for costly ones, the good ones. Stability versus support. Stability, that used to be a big issue for RPA tools in the past. Nowadays, it's far better, much better, I would say, because I still remember once, we faced a very, very bad issue with a customer where, we gave a robot to the customer. It was in production. They already paid. Everything was done. We shook hands. And then after a few days, they came back to us saying, this is not working. It failed. It was perplexing for us. We were a bit worried. So we investigated and found out that it is an actual issue of UiPath, not something that we developed. UiPath itself is having some issue with that, right? A Windows update came in, and even if you Google, right, UiPath not working after Windows update. If you Google it, you will see a lot of threads on that, because this was a major issue somewhere around 2018-19 time. So UiPath told us, okay, we have this issue and we are trying to fix it. Do you think a customer will agree to that, or do you think customer will be happy to hear that? Because they already paid, they don't care about what technology you use, they just want their process to work. That's it, right? So we had to do a lot of back and forth and everything, and somehow eventually after 2 or 3 months we somehow could resolve that issue. So stability is a big issue, right? So there are some tools that are very cheap but not stable at all. So that is something we have to be very careful about. Ease of learning RPA development methods. And point number 3 and 4, right? Can a non-technical person automate a process, right? The need for this is something that we discussed previously called bot per device, right? Everyone should have a robot of their own, right? Now imagine there are, one of our customers, they have 10,000 employees. Okay, so imagine a company with 10,000 employees. If everyone has a robot, right, and everyone identifies some process to automate, right, and if they have to depend on some software company or other technical expert, can you imagine the bottleneck that will be caused? Because there are 10,000. I mean, assuming that one person will come with only one process, it can be much more. So many processes coming to be automated, and maybe 5 or 6 or let's say 50 people working on that. They'll go mad. I mean, the the bottleneck will be really, really big, right? So ideal scenario would be for a business user to be able to automate, right? And here again, another tip for you guys. I know you're all MBA people, so business users, I would say, in the future. There is something called UiPath Studio. Okay, if you Google it, you can download the community version. UiPath Studio is used to automate processes to automate the processes. Okay, and that is by technical people. Now, for business users, there's something called Studio X, right? If you can get a hold of Studio X, that is for business users to automate. It's very easy to learn. You just have to drag and drop process and everything. It will automatically automate everything, right? So that's one feature of UiPath, for example. There's something called Studio X where anyone can automate, right? That way, they don't have this bottleneck of waiting for technical person to give their process and automate the process. And imagine there's a waiting time of 5 or 6 months, or maybe the 1 year for a process to be automated. Right? By the time the process itself might have changed or it's become obsolete, then that much work will be wasted, right? So ideal scenario would be for everyone to be able to automate on their own. And if possible, guys, I mean, if possible, if you can, research on Studio X or work on it, right, that'll help you, moving forward as well. Right. Now, moving forward. Another thing is identifying the process that needs to be automated. Okay. Before we, choose a process to automate, we need to ask these questions. One, is it rule based? Right? That is very important, as we discussed previously. For example, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. It should be well defined, right? It should not be in such a way that sometimes you do that, sometimes you do this. If nothing works, then probably you should do this or that. That is not rule based, right? That is human style of working, right? That should not be the case. It should be rule based. This process should be repetitive in nature, right? I mean, repetitive, and how often is it executed? Meaning, if let us say there's a process that is complicated, it takes maybe 5 or 6 hours or 10 hours, right? But if the process is executed only once a year, right? Then there is no point in automating it. Just 10 hours, or just someone just do it. That's it, right? However, if it is repeated, every month or every week, then absolutely that should be automated, right? And again, there's one more thing: is the volume, where let us say there's a process that is being executed every day, okay, but the time required to do that process is, let's say, 1 or 2 minutes. Oh, no point in automating. Just do it. That's it. Just click, done. Problem solved. Don't try to automate that. Right? So we need to ask these questions and understand if this process is automatable or not. Right. Another thing is a democratic approach of identifying the process. Right. See, usually we have C-level employees or managers. They tell people to do the work. They say, okay, man, you guys do this, you guys do that, right? You guys automate this process, you automate that process. But that is not the right approach, because C-level employees or managers, they are not the people who do the actual work. They don't know the entire process inside out, right? They might know have a bigger picture and a bird's eye view, but then that's it, right? However, if you follow a bottoms-up approach, right, where I like the word bottoms-up. If you follow a bottoms-up approach, where everyone who's working, right, every single person who's working, they should be able to suggest, okay, this is a process that I feel should be automated, right? That way, we will not miss out on anything. Imagine 10,000 employees, everyone suggesting, okay, this is automatable, this is automatable, this is automatable, I'm going to automate this, I'm going to automate that. That way, every process will be automated. Nothing will be missed out, right? Because the people who actually work on it will definitely recognize a process, right? Now, just to show you, how fast RPA is growing, right? This is a slide that I created during my first session, okay? And by the time I reached my second session, things changed a bit, okay? So I'm going to discuss about that as well. During my call with Crayon, even UiPath has this feature. They have a new technology where it's called discovery robots. Okay, we can install these robots in our systems. Okay, and this robot will silently observe what we are doing. Right, we don't have to do anything to it. We just keep working right now as we normally work, and then this robot will observe whatever we are doing, and we will it will automate that process. Not automate, I would say it will identify that process, right? And then it will send it to a server, right? By the way, I know what you guys might be thinking. Don't worry, it need not automate or it need not observe everything. We can whitelist and blacklist processes, right? For example, let us say I go to Facebook every day, right? I don't want the robot to identify, me going to Facebook every day checking my message. I don't want that to be a process that needs to be automated, right? So I can, blacklist Facebook so that the robot will not look into that, right? Instead, I can whitelist certain things like Excel or Word or whatever, right? So robot will look into that, right? That way, after a few days, the robot will identify a pattern in our work, mention that to the server, and there will be a dashboard. Okay, in the dashboard, you can see several processes. You can rename it as however we want. How much time it is taking, what are different ways of doing this process, and this much percentage possibility of automation, right? So the good thing is, if you feel like, okay, there's a 72% automation possibility for a process, choose it, right? We don't have to worry about, identifying a process or asking these questions. There are robots that will do it for us now, right? Like Discover robots, or, in UiPath also they have this thing called process mining, task mining. These are going to be the current, trends now, because imagine if you have a company, I come to you and I tell you, hey, you know what? Do you want to make some money? Of course, everyone wants to make some money. Do one thing: install this robot in your computer, employees' computers, right? And inside your network itself, into your server, you'll get information on which all process to be automated. And once you automate the process that you take somewhere around, 50 hours in a year, right? Will take only 5 or 6 minutes in a year, right? That means so many hours of labor cost is reduced, right? That is for one person. Now for every employee, we're talking about millions of money saved, right? So that would be the approach moving forward, right? Any questions regarding this? None. Okay, I'll move forward.
No, sir.
Sorry.
No question, sir.
Okay, fine. The next thing is educating the workforce on the benefits of RP and remove unwanted fear, right? See, people tend to fear what they don't know, right? Simple example, fear of dark, right? There are a lot of people who are afraid of the dark. Why? Not because dark is scary, but because dark is unknown. We don't know what lays ahead, right? Similarly, people will be afraid of RPA if they don't know what is RPA, right? We have to educate them, tell them, okay, this is here to help you. It's not going to take away your job. It's going to make your job meaningful, so that when you retire and look back, you can say, hey, you know what? I invented this, or I did something so good. It changed the business model itself, right? You can say such stuff instead of I kept tightening the bolt all my life. Don't tighten the bolt all your life, guys. Don't do that, right? It only makes your job more meaningful and easy, right? That is what RPA is going to do. And that is how you need to educate your employees, right? And justify automation by achieving the desired ROI. See, ROI can be achieved only by automating a large number of processes. Yeah, this is going to be very important when you speak to customers in the future, right? Or speak to someone, right? If you want to introduce RPA, right? Usually, what people do for other processes or other technologies is that they say, hey, you know what? I have identified this particular project or this particular process. Would you like to automate this? Like my friend Alex mentioned in the previous video. There is a employee onboarding process. Would you like to automate that? Right? Not the right approach, because if you do that, what would happen is they let us say I'm a customer. I'll think, okay, fine, employee onboarding. It will take so many hours of work. Let us say I'll be saving somewhere around 20,000, not even 20,000, maybe $10,000 per year. But then the cost of the license would be somewhere around $70,000. Wow. Okay, you know what? I don't want this. Even if it is similar, right? Let us say hire a HR profession only for employee onboarding. Even then, there's a US salary somewhere around $45,000 per year. It's still not $79,000, right? So just hire a person for employee onboarding. Even then, it is not a good ROI, right? So ROI can be justified by explaining to the customers that robots work way faster than human beings. So after automating a process, the robot is simply sitting. So you can give another process to automate. You can give several hundreds of processes to automate, right? That way, when you have so many processes that is being automated, then when you look at the ROI, it makes sense, right? So the aim should be to automate as many processes as possible, and that will give a great ROI, a great return of investment. Any questions for this part? This is going to be an important part when you discuss about RPA in the future. Okay, moving forward. Companies that automate for others, right? The challenges, right? I mean, companies that like my company, right? We automate for other people, right? Where we have a lot of challenges for ourselves as well, right? First is as we discussed, identifying the right tool to automate, right? Not knowing the processes that the customer wants to automate, convincing ROI for customer, short duration of projects, that can be a big issue, right? So let's discuss about that, right? When it comes to identifying the right tool, same situation just like the previous type of companies. The only difference is that some companies, right, they are experts or they have partnership with only one particular automation team, right? And then what happens is they suggest one tool to all customers, right? That is not good, because for some customers UiPath might be a great choice, but for others UiPath might not be ideal because it's costly, right? Some customers have only a few processes, definitely not UiPath, maybe electronic. So we need to identify which tool to use for which customers, and that is going to be very important, right? And another thing is not knowing the processes that the customer wants to automate. This is a real challenge for us because, say, customers, right? Or let us say you have a company, right? And if some random person comes to you and tells you, okay, see, I have this awesome business model where you can automate your processes, so you can make a lot of money. Tell me what all process you have. Do you think you will tell that because it's your business, right? You will feel like, okay, it's not a good idea to share my inside information with other people. I'm going to play it safe, maybe reveal a very common process to them, right? Employee onboarding. Okay, let them automate employee onboarding, right? They will come up with one process to us, and just to see what is RPA, right? And then we will have to convince an ROI with that single process, right? Which, as we discussed, is not going to happen. It's impossible, right? So let us see how these things are, discussed. We'll discuss about short duration later, right? Not knowing the process and that the customer wants to automate, right? See, they will not readily share the details about their process, right? We have to start by educating the customer about RPA. That is very important. It's imperative that we explain about RPA to them, teach them RPA if required, right? If they want to experiment on something, right, just talk about community versions or very cheap RPA tools and tell them, okay, just try this out, see if it works. Only then we'll go ahead with this method itself, right? Make them feel comfortable, right? Don't force or don't hard sell, right? And once they see the value, of RPA, offer consultation services. For RPA, consultation services are really effective, really useful, and needed as well, right? Where you have to handhold them through the automation journey. Tell them, see, I'm here with you. I'm going to help you automate, right? Let's start by teaching you and everyone in your company about RPA. We will educate you guys, and then you guys tell us what you want to automate. Right? That should be the right approach. We'll discuss about the right approach, probably with an activity. Right. Another thing is short duration of the projects. See, when we automate for other people, right, there are complications. Obviously, we are doing it for the money, right? I mean, we also need profit, right? So when you think about it, usually RPA processes they take somewhere around 2 weeks to automate. That's it. It's not that big or anything, right? So it's a small process, right? Now, imagine I have an employee called X. Okay, is automating a process for 2 weeks, right? After 2 weeks, I might not get another process to automate, right? Maybe for 1 week, right? Now, the thing is, the customer is paying only for that 2 week. They are not paying for the 1 week. They are simply sitting, right? And in that 1 week time, I cannot assign this person to any other project because another new project might come in. So I have to reserve this person for the customer, right? So basically, I have to pay the salary for a customer, for an employee for 30 days or for 1 month, while the development or the payment is done only for 2 or 3 weeks, right? You get it, right? So the gross profit will be definitely hit because there's a gap in between, right? People will be sitting idle a lot for RPA processes, right? So that is a big challenge for a lot of companies, and the best way to resolve this is to not start development, together all of a sudden, right? I mean, as soon as you get one project, you start developing. That is not a good idea. Instead, what you need to do is work closely with the customer, educate them, help them identify processes one by one using the democratic approach or the discovery robots or whatever, right? List down a huge set of processes that needs to be automated, right? Then create a roadmap on what all needs to be done. Maybe have a backlog of items that needs to be automated, right? Then choose a set of that, and so you have everything ready, right? So there's no gap in between, right? For this, you need to work closely with the customer, right, and explain to them about RPA, about the problem with the gap and everything. Explain to them, they'll definitely understand, right? Then start with a bunch of processes instead of one process. Right? That is the only way to resolve this issue. Yeah. Before we go to use cases, right? I have a request. I mean, do I have any volunteer? Anyone? Let me check. Guys, any volunteers? The activity is very simple, right? You just have to talk about, you just try to sell RPA. I mean, with whatever you know, right? Try to sell RPA to me, right? And I'll explain if the approach is right or not. I mean, see, if it is not, again, you're learning, right? So that way, in the future, you will know how to present RPA, which is going to be a very important part. Not only, it's not just about sales, it's about decision making, right? Whenever you talk about RPA, the right approach is very important. Otherwise, RPA will not be considered, right? Because people don't know what is RPA, right? So, anyone? Come on, guys. All right. You know what? No issues. We'll figure this out. Okay. I mean, I was planning an activity. Let's do one thing. Okay. I'll tell you how the right way is and how the wrong way is. Right. Let me start with the wrong way. Right. I call a customer. Hello. Hi. Hey. You know what? We have a new technology called RPA, and we can give you a lot of ROI. Uh, we have identified some use cases for you in human resource where you can do employee onboarding or the salary mapping or designation mapping. We can do all of that for you guys. Would you be interested? Right. So that is one way of approaching it, right? And then the customer would be one, okay, employee onboarding, salary mapping, everything, just work of just one person, right? I mean, is it really worth it? Should I expose this to the person, right? Then I'll, as a customer, I'll definitely ask, okay, I mean, so what would be the ROI for this, and how secure is it? I mean, is it safe? Of course, you can say it is safe because we are doing the entire work in a customer's environment or customer's, network, right? But that being said, ROI part, I don't think we can convince them, right? Now, what we can do, okay, the right approach is try not to sell, okay, especially a use case. Don't try to sell a use case. Instead, what we can do is uh, call them up. Hello, hi, how's it going? Everything, talk in us, casual stuff, and then start. Listen, you know what? We have a new technology called RPA, and I'm not trying to sell it to you. Just want to discuss about it. And would you be open to understanding or just looking into RPA to see if you will benefit from it, right? That most people will be fine with it, right? Then we'll tell them, okay, you know what? Let's do one thing. Let me explain about RPA. We'll talk about RPA, right? And in fact, I can teach RPA to your people as well for free. Why not? Just to see how things work out for you. And then you guys tell me if there's any process that needs to be automated, right? And by the way, we will have a non-disclosure, so you can definitely speak with us. And that being said, every process, everything will be in your environment, so there is nothing to worry. Okay, we'll tell all those stuffs to them, and then we'll educate them, right? And then when they come up with the process, right, we'll tell them, see, you have somewhere around 100 processes that you guys suggested, which can be automated. And would you like to automate it, or do you want us to help you automate? If you want my help, I can help you. If not, I can get the licenses for you. So that should be the right approach, because again, licenses in sense, we can be licensed partners for other vendors where we get it for discount rate and we can give it. So licenses, a bulk amount of license is again huge profit. Then another thing is, one of our customers, they wanted to do development of their own. So I trained them, I taught them how to code and everything. But that being said, after a few months, they came back to us and said, you know what, this is not our cup of tea. You guys do it. Right? I said, okay, fine, we'll do it. That way, we educate them, we train them on RPA, explained to them about RPA, and then they will come to us with projects, with a lot of projects, right? Then we do it. And it's not about, we should never focus on only one process at a time. That is going to be risky, right? Now, that being said, let's look at the use cases, right? Processes in a company, right? See, there are two types of processes, if you think about it, like generic process and industry-specific processes, right? For example, employee onboarding. We've been talking a lot about employee onboarding, right? In any company, right, be it in the manufacturing domain or the finance or the aviation or customer service, retail, anywhere, right? Employee onboarding is going to be there, right? So that is the kind of generic process that I'm talking about, right? The industry-specific processes, like claims processing for insurance, that is specific only to the industry, right? Insurance industry, right? So there are two types of processes, right? If you split like this, right? If you look at generic use cases, see, there are processes in verticals in the following, like tech support or human resource, finance, operations, procurement. Now, these are like generic. I mean, it is there for almost every company. So it is. I wouldn't say all companies, but then most companies will definitely have these processes, these verticals, right? And processes in these verticals are generic in nature, right? So the good thing is, if you have a process that that you created for human resources, right? If you have a POC something, you can share it with multiple companies itself. I mean, that way, you can tell them, see, this are for granted. I mean, this one is something that you can automate by default, right? Tech support. This are 5 verticals, right? Among these 5 verticals, we'll be looking at least 3 each, right? At least 15 or maybe even 20 processes easily, right? That we can automate. for generic use cases, right? Then industry-specific use cases, again, there are so many of them. I mean, if you look at manufacturing, BOM, bill of material, inventory control, proof of delivery, logistics data automation, ERP automation, right? Uh, this is where it gets boring, I understand. So let me get right to the point. I mean, do you guys believe that knowing these use cases is of huge value, or is it important? What do you think? Anyone? Okay, I'll explain why this is not really important, but good to know stuff. Okay, because we discuss about discovery robots, right? Or bottoms up approach, where everyone is going to find processes to automate after educating them, right? So these things will automatically come to us. However, the good thing is we can direct them. Okay, I mean, hey, did you think about bill of material? Like, we just casually suggest. That's it. For that, we can use these specific use cases. The reason I mentioned or brought in use cases over here is because a lot of people, when they ask me to do a presentation on RPA, when they ask me to talk about RPA, they specifically ask me, okay, can you suggest some use cases as well, right? Um, yeah, for learning purposes, of course, you can keep this in mind. These are some use cases. But that being said, uh, use cases are not really important. The approach is more important for RPA, right? Use cases will evolve automatically, right? And in fact, if you really think about it, there will be so many processes that does not even have a specific name or a generic name. It will be specific to that particular department, or maybe even specific to that particular employee, right? So if we limit ourselves to these particular well-defined use cases, we'll be looking at very few use cases, and hyper-automation will not be achieved. So there are so many things that can be automated, right? So always follow a bottoms-up approach, and always have a discovery robots or something like that, or process mining or task mining. Implement that so that we will know all the processes that needs to be automated, all the process that can become lean. That way, imagine take a process that takes 50 hours a year, right? And that is reduced to a few minutes, right? That many hours are saved, right? So that is how a process becomes lean. Now imagine 100 process being lean like that. That is benefit, right? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is about RPA. And one more thing, before I end the session, before we go to the question and answer session, I would like to mention something about IPA as well. We have all been talking about RPA, robotic process automation. There's something called intelligent process automation. Like, moving forward, we are evolving to IPA, where AI and ML is going to be used extensively. For example, in UiPath itself, I mean, there are different ways of using AI. We have something called OCR, or for scanning, right? For reading from paper, right? So for that, previously it was template based. It should be well defined, rule based. But then you cannot expect all documents to be well defined, rule based, right? So for that, we have a lot of AI facilities, right? Similarly, we have something called invoke code, where you can write actual code itself in UiPath, where you can use Python or ML. You can use machine learning formulas, linear regression, multilinear regression. You can use all that in the project or in the process itself, right? So RPA is evolving rapidly. It's getting to IPA, and eventually, I believe in a couple of years, there will not be any process that cannot be automated, right? As I said, there are some processes that cannot be automated because of human intelligence, but even that will change. We will come to a place where everything can be automated, right? So things are looking really good for process. Then you might be wondering, okay, then what will the employees do? I mean, if everything gets automated, right? Don't worry about it. AI can, the way how much the AI reaches is, there's a limit to that, right? as far as we know, I mean, AI is, artificial intelligence evolved as much as that of a lizard's brain. That's it, right? So beyond that, they still need our brain, right? I mean, to intelligently work and grow business in the right way. So that is about RPA. And any questions? Let me go to the comment section. And of course, I mean, please to provide your feedback in the link shared. Uh, any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Sir, is it possible that a company starts using this UI or something like robotic,
Mhm.
and later that fails?
Later that fails, right? Um, yes, I mean, why not? I mean, see, anything can fail. Okay, I mean, the failure should be, if you think about it, um, which part fails? That's what we need to identify, right? Let us say your path is implemented by a company named X, okay, and after some time, one particular process fails. That is where UiPath's RPA's benefit comes in. Okay, as I mentioned previously, a process takes somewhere around 2 weeks to automate. That's it, right? So even if there's a small mistake, right? I mean, or it fails somewhere, we can just small, just with a small tweaking, with a small change, we can bring it back to normal, right? It will start working again. So failures can be rectified faster using RPA tools, and of course, the tool's name is UiPath.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. And in the meantime, I would like to share something with you guys. If you need to learn UiPath or RPA, this is a link. It's free, and there are so many courses over there. It's all free, and you can learn RPA very easily, right? Uh, that's one option. And another thing is, if you can definitely mail me, my email ID is mailsforantony@gmail.com. Okay. In fact, a few of your batchmates have they've been interacting with me. They've been asking questions. So if you feel there's any question on RPA, if you have any doubts, please feel free to reach out. I'll try to respond as fast as possible. Right. So any questions before we leave for the day?
Any questions, students? I think nobody has any question. I'm sure if they have any doubts, they can always come back to you, Professor Antony.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Antony Kallanchira.
Thank you.
And this RPA presentation was really good, eye-opening. I think it's a new thing for our students, so hopefully it will help them in their career choices there. Thank you so much, and we'll let you go now. Thank you so much.
Okay. Have a nice day, guys.
Yeah. Students, please submit the feedback. Thank you.